Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Candid Shop. We speaking on things you not. Just press play and let it rock. Hey, welcome to the Candid Shop. Whoa, welcome to the Candid Shop. We speaking on things you not. Just press play and let it rock. Hey, welcome to the Candid Shop. Whoa, feel like we going through mad things. Gotta keep it real when they choose not. We gon' talk about it when the news drop. Welcome to the show where you know we don't fake this. Keep your opinion to yourself if it don't make sense.
Hola, Podcast Nation. It's your girl, Candidly Kristen, and this is the Candid Shop. Tonight's episode, we are going to do a little bit of a deep dive into relationships, dating, finding love, and the barriers to that. I am joined this evening by a former guest on the Candid Shop and my guest co-host, Dr. Kaci Chamone. Dr. Kaci is the owner and founder of Speaking Freedom Life Enhancement Program. She is also a certified life and love coach, business strategist, and podcast host. She is one of my favorite guests, and I'm so happy that she agreed to be a co-host for this episode. Our expert panel of guests this evening include Ibbie, and I'm going to try to say her name, Aromolaran. Ibbie is a dating coach, mental health therapist, and host of the Sick of the Situationships podcast. Ibbie works with women to help them break free from cycles of toxic relationships and situationships, heal, and move forward to securing happy, healthy love. Our next guest is Shamaree Brissett. She is a relationship and intimacy coach specializing in helping millennial women get the confidence and pleasure they deserve so they no longer settle for lack of satisfaction. Shamaree is also a marriage and family therapist who founded Shamaree Lab, and Lab looks like an acronym. I'll ask her about that later. Relationship and intimacy coaching services. Her mission is to serve more people because she believes that everyone deserves real confidence, real satisfaction, and real orgasms. Yes. Our last guest is Lilli Bewley. She is a feminine and masculine dating coach and the host of the Lilli Bewley podcast. Lilli says the most important thing to know about her is that she loves big and she loves to help others love big too. Lilli helps women and men date with confidence so they can find epic magnetic love, and she has some proven frameworks and archetypes that our clients love and that we hope she shares with us. Please join me in welcoming all our guests to the Candid Shop. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yay! Everybody is here and I can hear everybody and you can hear me. So we're just going to get right into it. We did 3 relationship episodes in the first season, but I wanted to do a rewind and dive a little deeper into some things. Relationships are at the heart of everything that we do in life, whether it's familial, co-workers, intimate relationships. Our relationships are at the heart of it. So I got some stats for you guys. The stats for relationships are all over the place. So I kind of focused on singles and people that were dating and looking for a relationship. So Pew Research Center says that nearly half of U.S. adults say dating has gotten harder for most people in the last 10 years. They say they're not doing too well at all, and that it's somewhat difficult to find like-minded people to date or have a relationship with. I'd like to ask each of our guests, do you think that's true, and what your reason would be for why dating is so difficult for people now or over the last 10 years? And I guess we can start with Ibbie.
Okay, hi there.
Hi, Ibbie.
Let's see. I want to say it might be a little bit more challenging because the stakes are higher now. Like, people aren't just getting into relationships because they need to be, because they need to survive. Like, a lot of people are independent now. They're doing their own thing. So They're not settling like they used to before. So I think not only has it gotten, I wouldn't say necessarily more difficult, it's just the stakes are a little bit higher and people don't exactly know, they don't have the right tools to date healthily.
Okay. All right. Good answer. And Lilli?
Ooh, I don't know. Thank you for posing this question. So I haven't really thought about this, but I'll wing it. I personally don't think that dating is hard. So that's maybe why I don't connect with that stat. Like you
Okay.
mentioned before, the stats are up and down and all over the place. And I agree with that. I think the perception of dating may be hard because there are a lot of options out there.
Okay.
I think there's so many things that contribute to that, whether that be the amount of options out there, could be like, why are you going out there and looking for a relationship? Like, are you lonely? Are you just looking to swipe? Are you swiping? Are you swiping at the stoplight while you're in your car? There's a lot of things out there I think that could make it hard for sure. But I personally think that dating is so much fun, and that's something that I like to talk about and teach if you are aligned with like some certain things in your life. So I'm not sure if I really necessarily agree, but I can understand. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take that back. I've been in that spot where it has been hard, and it has been like through the date, like the download delete cycle, and that's not fun. But I don't know. Maybe it is the options, but I also think maybe it's also the mindset too.
Okay, good answer. Thank you for that.
Yeah, so I feel like I kind of agree with both of the ladies here. So I think that there is kind of this thing where a lot of, especially people who are single, there is that super independence, and there's so many other things in your life that you're focusing on that maybe dating is not always the priority. And so when you're doing that, maybe it is just for fun, or like Lilli was mentioning, there's different motivations for that. So like maybe I just want to hook up with someone, and there's other people on that same app or in the same bar or the same grocery store. They're out there and I interacted with them, but they're looking for a relationship. I'm looking to hook up. You're looking for something different. So I think maybe there's the differences in what they're actually looking for. And I don't think that people are always upfront with what they're looking for. And that, I guess, can be difficult in that we don't know what we're doing here because neither one of us are actually telling each other what we want. And so I think maybe difficult in that way, but I don't know that it's different than it's ever been, other than like was mentioned, there's so many more options. We have the internet, we have the apps, we have technology. We can date more people in different places than previously. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it.
Oh, those are all great answers. And Dr. Kaci, your thoughts on that?
So I would say that in addition to all of that, in previous years, most times people didn't have the opportunity to not deal with themselves, not face themselves. They didn't have so many band-aids that they could use in order to avoid seeing themselves. So now, in addition to the internet and all of those things, now you're dealing with people that's dealing with avoidance of their self issues. So now they're covering up and putting on band-aids. And so now I don't even know who I am. I don't know what I like. And now with more options, it doesn't force me to really know myself, because if me and you don't get along and I hit it and quit it, then I can go to the next person. And if we don't get along, and a lot of times people are not developing friendships, they're just, I meet you, I like you, let's screw, versus let's see what this relationship is supposed to be. Because sometimes I say we pervert relationships, and not meaning that we make them all sexual, but it may be intended for one thing, but we feel chemistry and we automatically think, oh man, that means we're supposed to go and we're supposed to do this and
Hit
we
the
got a
sheets,
date.
yes.
But sometimes chemistry is just the magic of the atmosphere that you're supposed to create something in. And if you don't know what's the purpose of the relationship, you can mess up something that's supposed to be a business partnership, a friendship, family type relationship, just because you jumped the gun too fast. So all of those things kind of muddy the water when it comes to relationship.
I agree. I definitely agree with that statement, Dr. Kaci. I don't think that it's at all possible to form any kind of relationship, intimate friendship, until you know yourself. I really don't think you can do that. So, single and dating. I got one question for everybody. Sex while dating, yes or no?
Before I got married before my divorce, we didn't have sex or kiss or anything before we got married. So although I did that, I don't believe that that's sufficient. So I do definitely want to have sex as soon as I find somebody that I feel like is worthy.
That's worth having it,
I mean, yeah, because okay, so when I say worthy, I'm thinking like at least I know that we can get along long term. Like,
well,
we can get beyond the small talk about deep things, like it has to be
right.
some substance there.
So
Go
I
ahead.
got a question for you. So sex when dating, and I want to give the other ladies a chance to weigh in on their answers, but just keep this tucked in the back of your mind. If you're having relations when you're dating, where do you think that belongs in terms of time frame? Like not hard and fast time, like 90 days or nonsense like that, but is
Depends
there
on
a
the vibe.
place?
You
Okay.
might meet somebody and the vibe is good within the first couple of dates. You might meet somebody and
Okay.
it take a little bit longer to see if that's the way you want to go with things, or that person may be celibate. Who knows? Men be on their thing too.
Right.
So it
Right.
kind of
Right.
just
True.
depends.
Okay. Ladies, Lilli, would you like to weigh in on that? Or Ibbie or whoever? I don't want to, tell you guys what order to go, and that's way too structured for me. So,
I can go.
okay.
If Lilli doesn't mind, are you okay
Go,
with that,
Ibbie.
Lilli?
Do your thing.
Okay, cool.
Do it.
I definitely think it depends on the person and then their intentions. Like, what is your reason for dating, right? Because
Hmm.
if you're looking for a certain end goal and you happen to know within yourself that sex is your kryptonite, that's what's going to get you to fall for someone immediately before they've even shown themselves worthy. Then I
Okay.
would say hold off. Like, put restrictions on yourself. Give yourself an actual timeline or an actual, like, number of things that person has done. Like if they've shown their character, if they've, shown that they're worthy, then do that. But if you know within yourself that that's going to cloud your judgment, or,
Hmm.
it doesn't align with the goals that you have set, then I would say hold off. But if you are okay with doing that and it doesn't cloud your judgment and it's not interfering with your goals, then by all means, first date, second date, like whatever you want. It's
Right.
just, you
Right.
have to know yourself, really.
Okay. And I was going to say that's the bottom line to that is you have to know that about yourself. The time to decide that isn't after. And then you're like, oh, wow, I don't know if I can see him clearly. So the knowing yourself part goes back to the first thing we discussed. Got to know yourself. So Lilli or Shamaree, either one of you guys.
Yeah, I was just going to say along kind of that thought frame is I'm a full advocate of do what you want to do. And when I say that, I mean you specifically. So every
Mm-hmm.
person has their own intentions, their own background, their own experiences, not what society's telling you to do, not, oh, he's not going to like me anymore if I don't do this, or
Mm-hmm.
I need to make him wait, or he's not going to take me seriously. What do
Got
you
it.
want to do? Taking out all of those external things. If you want to do it, and kind of like what Ibbie mentioned too, just knowing yourself, because some people are not equipped to handle those situations, and that's fine. That doesn't make you bad, weak, or whatever. Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone's just different, right?
Right.
So knowing yourself, if you want to do it, I've had experiences. I've known people first day, years down the line, it doesn't determine what the relationship is going to be in any way. So if that's something that you want to do and you guys are on the same page, because that's also important, don't
Mm-hmm.
go into a situation thinking that this is going to be your husband and he's just trying to hook up with you, and now
Right.
you put
Right. Right.
yourself in a situation where you're disappointed. So
Right.
also kind of knowing that, or having at least in mind that sort of idea that you're on sort of the same page, at least close to the same
Right.
page. I think that is totally okay to do it whenever you're ready, whenever you want.
Okay. And Miss Lilli.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, I appreciate all those perspectives, and
Right.
yeah, I'm definitely on the line of what everyone has been saying. So I'm gonna say it again. Is like, what are your intentions? Like for
Mm-hmm.
me, what I do, my zone of genius is helping men and women get into committed relationships. So that's where I'm going to come from.
Okay.
And so It's an interesting dance, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think we all know about the honeymoon period at the beginning
Mm-hmm.
when everything's really juicy and things are flowing and things are just, explosive and
Mm-hmm.
magnetic. And what the things that I experience and I teach, especially when it comes to sex, is that the longer that we can hold off with sex, and this is again, like I'm going to bump up what the other speakers are saying too, which is like it's all up to you. But I
Right.
know that the longer that we can hold off sex, the more opportunities we have with real like emotional intimacy. Like that's where I live, is the
Right.
emotional intimacy, and that's what most women want. So if we think about like how great and like just extravagant and so juicy that honeymoon period is, what we really want is that like that tension, right? That sexual tension that we have
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning.
Right.
How long, and it's not a game, but just more of like, I want to honor myself. Like if I'm coming from a woman's perspective, like I want to honor myself by having this man show me by his actions what he's all about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before we get to sex. Because sex can really change a lot of things, as we know, right?
Yeah.
Like our hormones and
Yep.
catching feels and all of the
Mm-hmm.
things and overthinking and all of that stuff. So what I like to do and what I teach people to do is again, like the longer that we can hold that off, the better the odds that we can kind of really determine with a very like straight mindset, what is this man all about? Is he along the same values as I am? Are we walking
Mm-hmm.
the same path?
Mm-hmm.
Things aren't really as cloudy, I don't think, when sex is involved, and it's fun. Like think of how fun flirting is and how that tension is just so it's so delicious and so juicy. So that's my take, and I don't think it's black and white. I definitely think it's like, it's
Right.
whatever is on your taste. But I can tell you from a biological perspective, I'm not the doctor in the show, but like the
Right.
hormones that get involved when we get into these physical relationships, especially with women, we're there. Like oxytocin is for like going into relationship, right? And for like
Mm-hmm.
attachment and love.
Right.
So not that we want to deny ourselves that, but let's play. Let's like dip our toe in the water,
Right.
right? Let's get like try to give it to ourselves in other ways so we don't look at it from other people.
Okay. Well, thank you for those answers. We had one, Chanel S. says, when there is an understanding of intention, sex is not a necessity or a guarantee, which is what some people fail to realize. Make your stance clear from the beginning. And that statement is a great segue into communication, expectation, when you're dating, when you're going out with people. Communication, expectation, and your own personal boundaries. How important is that in from where you guys, because you guys do this for a living, and I'm always interested to know how much, like when I'm dating, how much I should share, when, I'm not big on, you don't have to tell them my whole life story, like every single thing that happened since the womb. So if you guys could just, again, and I like having a panel because I have all these perspectives, if you guys could just share where communication, expectations, and boundaries kind of fall into. If I was your client, what would you be talking to me about where those three things are concerned?
Yeah, I'll go. So I love me some boundaries. I
Mm-hmm.
love it. I live for it. I don't play about boundaries. So
Okay.
I think that that's something that happens right away,
Mm-hmm.
because just the way that you interact with someone, the types of things that you discuss, those are boundaries. So even if you're not explicitly outlining them, the way that you handle yourself, the way that you interact is demonstrating them to a certain extent. So I
Okay.
think that that's something that happens pretty much right away. And then as things unfold, if you're going to take this person a little bit more seriously, then you start to be a little bit more clear and a little bit more forward with what those boundaries are, hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
because it's very important. We all need to have some boundaries, whether that's with friends with benefits, a situationship, a relationship, whatever your intention is,
Mm-hmm.
there needs to be some sort of boundary, some sort of understanding. And as far as expectations, that kind of goes along with boundaries. Your
Mm-hmm.
expectations inform your boundaries. So what
Okay.
you are hoping for or what you need or what you want being able to express that and then being able to see if that person's able to meet you there or if it's even worth going further. Because if I tell you that I'm looking for someone to marry and you're not on that at all, then I don't even need to waste my time.
What's the point, right?
Right. So I feel like that should be something that is discussed up front. And no, you don't need to tell your whole life story. So like, this is why I have trust issues. This person did this and this person left me, and you don't need to do that. Right. But I do think that kind of upfront, like, this is what I hope for, this is what I'm looking for, what is it that you're looking for, and having that sort of conversation as a basis. And then from there, if you go on a few dates and things kind of unfold naturally, I think, or I hope. I mean, I haven't dated in a very long time, but I for me, it's always kind of unfolded naturally throughout conversations, or if you're on social media, we see the posts, like, this is what's going on, this person got cheated on, like, you express your opinions on those things, and that you can use that as a way to start that conversation. If you're afraid to just start it yourself, use prompts.
All right. And Miss Lilli?
Yeah, that was such a good explanation of all that stuff. I feel like communication, expectation, boundaries is like, how long do you want to be on Podbean? Because I feel like they can take so long. I mean, what I like to know when I'm dating and when my clients are dating is very similar to what Mari said, which is like, here's the path that I want to walk down. Are you at least going to walk down, like, are we walking down the same path? One of the archetypes that I have is called the chill woman. Okay. And she is, she gets really kind of bamboozled sometimes with the man that is like, oh, I want to hang out or I want to chill, and is pretty like very non-committal about kind of what his intentions are. So maybe he's not clear, but the way that she perceives that is like, oh, okay, let's just see what happens. But do y'all know what tends to happen? What tends to happen is, sorry if I'm calling anybody out, but like what tends to happen, sorry, but what tends to happen,
Kandid shop, go be Kandid.
Well, what tends to happen is, like, normally y'all go to sex early, and then there's feels, and then there's ghosting. Like, that's the process. And so it's all about like communication, expectations, and boundaries, which is what Shamaree said, right? Like, so if you're in the relation, or you're walking into this kind of relationship with someone, a dating relationship, it's like, where are you and where do you want to go? I think, like, for me, that is the very first thing that I want to know. And that's kind of what I teach my clients too. And then I just one person said, like, I know what I want, but it's hard. And I'm just kind of curious about that too, because I feel like that is the gap, right? Like, most of us probably that are here listening, at least spending time in this space where we're focused on growth. We know what we don't want, right? Right. But then getting to that point of getting what we do want, that is the massive gap, right? And I think that what you're talking about is everything, like, a lot of what we've been talking about here too. But yeah, I just hope that's helpful.
Yes, thank you so much. And who didn't go? Ibbie?
The question's about communication, boundaries, and expectations, right?
Right.
Okay. So communication. I do believe it is important to let your expectations be known early on. Maybe not in a very somber and formal way, but asking questions such as, like, where do you see yourself in 3 years? And then they tell you, and if they don't mention married and that's what you want, then, you know what to do at that point. So, like, you can say things like, in having general conversations, where do you see yourself in 3 years? Oh, well, I see myself married. I see maybe a child on the way, blah, blah, blah. So they know up front that this is not a game for you. Like, you're actually dating for marriage, or whatever it is that you're dating for. You can state your expectations up front just by having general conversation. And then boundaries. If it's boundaries like you don't want them coming over your place until a certain time, you can say that. You could be fun. You could be flirty, like, oh, wouldn't you want to come over? Well, I'm not ready for that yet. Like, you can have fun with this stuff. It doesn't have to be a dreadful dating experience, but you can still let people know where you stand and still have fun.
Got it. All right, Dr. Kaci. Dr. Kaci? Uh-oh. I think Dr. Casey's audio went out. So we've been talking about singles, and somebody mentioned situationships, friend with benefits, and I wanted to, that was a good segue because I had that in my bullet. Like, situationships, friends with benefit ships, are they the same?
Can I take this one?
You sure can. You sure can.
Situationships, that is my specialty right there.
Uh-huh.
I definitely I distinguish between situationships and friends with benefits.
Okay.
Because friends with benefits is more understood. Like, this is what it is. We're having benefits, we're having fun, we're friends. It's more defined, and both people hopefully are on the same page.
Okay.
Whereas with a situationship, however, it's usually, from what I've experienced, one person hoping they can secretly make the other person want to be in a relationship, and the other person just kind of stringing them along. Like, there's no definition, but it's like, oh, we both know what we have. We both understand, but there's no true understanding. Like, something's amiss between the two. And a lot of times people stick around with the hope that it can become something else when the one person's telling you they're okay with how the relationship is, but you have a hope that it's going to go somewhere else. It creates a disconnect, and I don't see that ever leading anywhere. But with friends with benefits, I've seen that lead to successful relationships.
Okay.
Can I jump in?
You sure can.
Okay, so I wanted to go back because I felt like I was different than all of the other ladies' answers with the communication, expectation, and boundaries, and then I'm going to do the friends with benefits. So when I think of the importance of communication, it's number one for me. But I am not structured when it comes to dating. I don't want to sit down and talk about what I expect from the other person because that would run me off personally. I don't want to go into something knowing that they are looking for something from me, because to me that means that you can come with your representative more than actually being yourself. When if you just meet somebody, you become friends and allow it to kind of progress where you just talk about different stuff, what you got going on, you know, what you're into and things like that. And then the expectations will kind of roll out on their own. And then the more you understand yourself, the more you will have natural boundaries where some things will just turn you off more than you having to say, well, this is a boundary. No, this is, you know, I'm just going to be cool. And once I see things that I don't like, then I will communicate that, or that will be my cue to exit stage right.
Right. Okay.
And then when it comes to friends with benefits, so I've been in a situationship before, and they can be one person wanting more than the other person, but sometimes it is not that at all. Sometimes it is literally just two people who are friends with benefits, but they look out for each other. They have a little bit more commitment or skin in the game than just friends with benefits. It's more of going like into a relationship, but it depends on how you decide to take it now. Situationships come in all shapes and sizes because some are people that are expecting more and somebody expecting less. And that doesn't always mean it's the woman. Sometimes men want more than what they say. They just not going to tell you that they want more. They're going to do little things. They're going to say little things to where if you take the hint versus them saying it, then they will, you know, it will lead somewhere. And then with friends with benefits, it's just somebody that I like that I might want to hump on or kiss on or something like that. But that is more dangerous than a situationship, because when you start being friends with benefits, if those benefits get screwy, then it can mess up a great friendship. And I try to tread lightly with that. It's almost like putting somebody in a friend zone and taking them out and then trying to put them back after you then smashed. And that's just dope.
Got it. Who didn't have a chance to answer that one? I think we all did, right?
Well, I wanted to say something.
Okay.
So I am married to my friends with benefits situationship because we've gone through all the stages. It's been 10 years. We've been through it all. So I do not recommend necessarily doing it that way. However, I do believe that it is possible. But as I mentioned before with the boundaries, it's very important that you have those boundaries and those understandings. So if you know, like throughout each stage and as feelings change, so maybe we start out as friends with benefits. You my little sneaky link. I'm gonna call you. You come through, you do what you do, and that's what it is. But if at any point on either side, if our feelings have started to change, then we need to be communicating that. And I need to let you know, like, hey, I don't know if I could do this anymore. This is where I'm at right now in my life. And maybe I'm looking for something different than what I was before. And that's okay. That happens. We're humans. It happens. Right. There needs to be a conversation though, because secretly hoping, wishing, and waiting for someone to be on the same page as you, but not telling them that you want them to be on the same page is going to leave you more times than not hurt. So it's very important that it's communicated and you can move through those stages. My husband and I did not do it very gracefully at first. So it was a very, very much a back and forth, a little bit of a struggle. But I believe that if we had been a little bit more upfront with our emotions and if we were on the same page with expressing those things and those changes as they were happening, it would have been a lot better, a lot smoother. So I do believe it can happen, but only if you're willing, both parties or all parties, if there's more than two of y'all, very, very open and honest.
Got it. So since you just gave me my next segue, ma'am, and we've been talking, for this portion about people that are single, dating, and so forth, situationships. So I wanted to move into people who are partnered in committed relationships. They could be married or just in a committed relationship, like it's just them and one other person or two or three other people. I wanted to get you guys' thoughts and feelings on poly relationships and is monogamy still a thing at all? But before we do that, we had somebody call in and I wanted to open the floor up in case she had a question. Kiwana, who is in the room, is Omni Keys, who has also been a guest and a staunch supporter of the podcast. Did you have a question for the ladies?
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm not sure if it's a question, but I'm interested in what someone might think about how I feel about the situation. But when it comes to boundaries and communication, I totally agree with someone. I think it was it Kaci that was talking about really just not having expectations, but not having expectations and having boundaries at the same time without controlling the person by telling them this is what I expect from you, and making them feel burdened with what you desire in a relationship. And so I'm the one that said in the beginning that dating is hard,
right?
Because I know what I want. And what I should have said is dating is pretty much non-existing for me because now I know what I want. When I didn't know what I want, okay, I would date and they would demonstrate what I didn't want. And when they demonstrated what I did want, I would compromise and things like that. But now that I know what I want, dating gets knocked out the box with what are you doing? Dating gets knocked out of the box because that's all you got to say. What you doing? I'm talking to my imaginary friends. What you doing?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Or dating gets knocked out of the box with send me a pic.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so because I want compatibility, I don't want to change anyone.
Right.
And so before I knew what I want, I was all about trying to change people, but I didn't realize that's what I wanted. I didn't realize that's what I was doing.
Right.
I was going into relationships. I was dating, trying to get somebody to want what I want so that we can make it happen. There's no making it happen. It's got to flow. And so
I agree.
That's what I really meant by dating is hard. It's pretty much non-existent for me right now until I do the work on my own self, until I do the psychic work, the spiritual work, until I can do the work needed for me to align myself with a different kind of vibration when it comes to the kind of people that's I can't think of the word, the kind of people that come into my life. Let me just put it simply like that.
Okay.
So
Well, thank you
I'm
for
doing
that.
that work, and then we'll see what happens.
That's right. And it'll happen. It'll happen. Trust me. If it'll happen. And if it doesn't, then, just,
it is what it is. I'm
it
okay
is what
being
it is.
single.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you for that, Miss Omni Keys. And I'm
Thank you
going
for
to,
listening.
oh, you're welcome. So, ladies, relationships. Let's talk about
Yes, Lily,
relationships.
what
I
you
think
want
my
us to
thing
talk
was,
about?
is monogamy a thing anymore? Real monogamy.
I like how you said real monogamy.
I think that when it comes to relationships, it's to each his own, because what works for one person might not work for somebody else. And what I've realized in becoming a sex coach is that a lot of people like a lot of different things that people with a more religious or Christian mindset might not realize. So a lot of things that they are ashamed of, there is somebody that is willing and can meet your every desire. So for some people, monogamy will work, but for some other people, it won't. And especially for people that are prone to cheating, I don't think that that's like an error in the person. I think that some people just have that type of disposition. Just like it's different species of not lions, of animals, cats in the cat world. There are different species of humans. So somebody may have a more sexual nature or need more than the next person, and it could be determined by genetics, DNA, blood type, anything. Who knows at this point? But I see where poly works for people. I don't disagree with it. I don't know if I would do it. It would have to be some extreme circumstance to make me even open to it. But I I as a sex coach, I watch it all.
I got it. Got it. And Ibbie?
Yeah, I have just a little brief input. I think knowing your people who want polygamy and polyamory and stuff is because of deeper issues. Like, it's not actually that that's what they want, because it usually ends up being one-sided. Like, they want it because they think that they can't be committed to someone, and that's not a reason to be in a poly relationship. Like, people in those relationships that are doing it right, they're actually all gaining from the relationship equally, and it's like it's something they're enjoying, Other people who say they just want that, a lot of the time it's like, if they don't know why they want it and they're just doing it because, they cheated a few times and it's like, this might be the answer. Don't go into it with this might be the answer. Like, actually know what you're getting yourself into and know what goes into it and structure it how you would like it to be structured.
Right. And that's so that it works for everybody involved.
Exactly.
Got it. Miss Lilli, any thoughts on this particular vein?
I have thoughts. All of that, Ibbie, for sure. And I just want to say, like, this is not my zone of genius. My zone of genius is more committed and monogamous relationships, but I do have opinions. And the thing that people don't, at least from what I see, what people don't talk about it with polyamory is exactly what Ibbie was talking about. Is like, is this a Band-Aid for like a crumbling relationship? Or is this like kind of like an addiction? Or is this a representation of deeper seated, traumatic issues that may need to be healed, right?
Okay.
And I have seen personally people that have accepted, we're talking about boundaries here, and and Omni, thank you for speaking up. And I seriously think that what we want is the boundary. And but I've also seen like these, I guess people would term them as like codependent type people agree to polyamory, but that's not in their highest good, or self-honoring, right? So I personally think that polyamory is, it seems like the doctor has a different opinion, but I personally think that polyamory is very, very hard to pull off consciously. that people really need, what Ibbie was saying, that people really need to be on the same page, like to a T, and be able to communicate, be emotionally grounded, be emotionally communicative, and just be really in touch with themselves in order to make that work. That's, again, my opinion. This isn't
Most
nothing
people
deep
don't do that in monogamous relationships. So for you to say that, people get into monogamous relationships because of codependency, because they need somebody.
Yeah.
People do a lot of things.
And I think that if you can't get it right with one person, you certainly aren't going to be able to get it right with multiple people.
How many cooks in the kitchen? Exactly. Yeah, that's what I think.
So I think it all goes back to knowing who you are at base level. And in a monogamous relationship, people can change and grow apart and separate amicably. In a poly relationship, you just have the added components of, nobody's going to stay the same forever and ever and ever. And so
that's it. In case though, have y'all studied it? Have y'all do y'all know anything about poly, or this is just from what you hear from it? Because I'm
a researcher, so I don't have any personal experience
of people so that I can study the environment of polygamy. I not only studied it in school on an educational level, but I actually joined Facebook groups just so that I can learn about the people that choose this lifestyle, as well as about the lifestyle in general. And a lot of these people are not hurt people. A lot of these people are no different than somebody that's saying that they're monogamous and then creeping or having an emotional affair or looking somebody else upset up and down and wanting or desiring after somebody else. All of those things are no different than
let me just interrupt and say polygamy and polyamory aren't the same. Polygamy is somebody having multiple wives. Polyamory is somebody having multiple intimate relationships. But they don't have to be married.
You can't get married to more than one person. So technically none of them would be married. No matter what type of relationship that involves with more than two people, it still takes the same, and no matter what relationship that involves more than just you and yourself, it still takes the same amount of commitment, communication, openness, willingness to forgive and see things the other way. There is no real difference. It's just adding somebody else. Somebody might be bisexual, so they want both a man and a woman. That's not something that means that something is wrong with that person. They just have a different desire than you. That's it.
Okay, Dr. Kaci, do you have your headphones on?
I don't.
I'm getting
having
crazy echo. Okay, because whenever you're open, there's crazy echo. And yes, those statements are indeed very, very true. But I still land in the camp of it's a lot of monogamous people are in poly relationships and don't know it because their boyfriend, husband, wife is cheating. I don't think that person is going to go into an open poly relationship and be like, this is better. But I don't know because it's not for me. But that doesn't mean that's like for everybody. So
can I say something?
Sure.
Yeah. I think to clarify, I don't think Lilli and I were saying that people who are in those relationships are damaged. We were just saying, just know your why for getting into any type of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
If there are deep-rooted issues there for monogamy, poly, whatever relationship you're in, know your why. What's your intention for going into it?
Right.
So just wanted to clarify that.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you. So does anybody else have any comments about that before we talk about toxic red flags in relationships, situationships, friends with benefits, single or dating? What things, if you ladies are giving somebody advice, what to look for, that's a red flag for narcissism or toxicity, what would those things be?
Coming on too strong, too fast. That's one key feature of narcissism and toxicity is love bombing, where they come on really strong. They don't even really know you, and they're already talking about, oh, when are you going to be my wife? Oh, when are you having my babies? And they haven't even got a chance to know you yet. That can be a red flag because, you know, in healthy relationships, there's like a mutuality there. Like, we get to know about each other little by little. It's not like one person chasing the other person down and overwhelming them. So that's one red flag.
Anybody else? Lilli?
Yeah, I think, you know, that's a good one, Ibbie, for sure. And I think like being open, like we were talking, I love talking about boundaries too. So whoever said, oh, you know, I can talk about boundaries all day, I'm with you. And I think like when I'm dating, I have some like specific requests at the beginning just to kind of make sure I don't want to go out and go on a date and waste my time with someone. So I like having to chat on the phone with them. And if I'm asking my potential date to like, hey, how do you know, I'd love to hear your voice. How about we chat for a little bit? And if it's maybe not perceived like as honoring, if someone doesn't honor that, doesn't honor a request, yeah, I'd say that like that would be a runaway thing for me.
Okay. And Shamaree?
When you initially were asking a question, I was thinking about it just like more in general terms. Okay. So not necessarily related to like narcissistic traits or related to abusive traits or controlling traits.
Well, just any red flag.
Right. So just in general, a red flag to me, or that I would say for anyone, is if you know what your non-negotiables are, the things that are very most important to you, and you express that to someone and they repeatedly are either violating it knowingly. So obviously you have to tell them these are the things that are important to you, and they're constantly violating them. And then if you tell them, hey, you did this and this is how I feel about it, but they can't respect it, even if they don't understand it, because sometimes people don't and they don't feel that way themselves, that's fine. But having that respect is very important for me. So I feel like anytime they're not able to respect what your perspective is, even if they can't understand it, even if they don't agree, for me, that is a red flag, because you can't later then, when the relationship progresses, expect that they're going to learn to respect those things if they showed you already.
That they don't. Got it. Yep. Dr. Kaci? Hello? Dr. Kaci? Yeah, she's having audio issues. So ladies, each of you individually in your own right are a relationship dating coach. So what I'd like from each of you, because time is just flying, this hour goes way too fast. I'd like each of you to kind of give my listeners, the people in the room now and the people that will hear it when it goes out to the world on podcast platforms, just a little brief glimpse into what you do. Like, who's your typical client for each of you?
I'll jump in.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for this conversation, everyone. I love talking about relationships and I don't know, spreading the love too. So I work mostly with women who are really familiar with anxiety and overwhelm in dating. Like this tends to flare up in the span of like 24 or 48 hours after not hearing from the other person.
Oh, geez. Okay.
As I mentioned before, she tends to get ghosted a lot. She doesn't really understand why. She probably very similar to like the situationship that Ibbie talks about, is she tends to have sex pretty quickly, but really kind of wants something more, or maybe thinks that she can be friends, but it doesn't really end up that way. So, and that's a pattern. I do a lot of really deeper healing work with people that have gone through therapy or goes to therapy and who have gone through other programs, but can't really seem to break some of these patterns. Okay. So I like to call myself the cleanup crew with the deeper emotional stuff and help people unlayer, just really so they can call in like higher caliber dates, right? Like the what you do it, you know, type of text. I don't know. I think that we can take action and like set boundaries at the beginning and expectations and intentions and everything that we've talked about tonight. So we really don't even have to entertain that, or you know, we catch it pretty quickly. And so I really, and Lilli, like I said, I love to make dating fun. Yeah.
You are actually, because you coach both men and women. What is your typical male client like?
That's a great question. The male client is more what I call the buddy.
Oh, the
he
friend zone guy.
yeah,
Um,
he gets friend zoned a lot. He hears from his friends and family, "Oh, you're such a great guy. I don't know what's happening with you or whatever." But he tends to hang around a little bit too long in relationships, and he really wants connection, but
got
he
it.
just can't seem to lead in the relationships. And he may be picking the wrong women too in order to do that. So that's typically the profile of the man that I work with too.
Okay. And Shamaree?
So, I am a relationship and intimacy coach, and I specialize in helping millennial women get the confidence and pleasure that they deserve so that they no longer settle for lack of satisfaction, especially within relationships. So, that is a woman, whether single, friends with benefits, situationship, or in a relationship, that struggle with having intimacy, deep connection, struggle with their sex life, getting the pleasure that they deserve out of it, struggle with having orgasms or just getting their needs met. So, anyone who has tried and has still not getting what they want when they feel like they've exhausted a lot of different options, I like to help those women.
Okay. All right. And I wish I had time to go deeper into how you do that, how each of you do that, but I'll have to do one-on-one chit chats with all three of you to get that
Mm-hmm.
out there. And we're going to talk about that too. But Ibbie, who's your typical client?
Hey everyone, my name is Ibbie. I'm a dating coach and therapist. My typical client is a woman who has cycled through toxic relationships and situationships and wants to be in a monogamous relationship that leads to marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So I work a lot with women who they have like trauma bonds, toxic relationships, codependency, attachment issues, and things like that. And they just feel like they keep cycling through it and just want to understand why. So I take it from like a childhood perspective, like what were your relationships like with your parents, and then take it from there and see how it's affecting their current relationships today.
Got it. And Dr. Kaci, if you can unmute, let me hear if you still have that echo.
I'm so scared to even talk. I don't want to mess up your show.
Oh, now that sounds really good.
So typically, I actually am a community based provider. So I survey rooms and give feedback and give helpful advice to people based on my psychology education and all of the coaching education that I have. And I try to use real life situations, most times of celebrities or people that's already in the public eye, so that I don't have to rain on anybody's parade. And I use that to give people feedback and understanding of why people do the things they do and how they become who they are, basically, and kind of uncover the parameters of spirituality, human behavior, and life in general.
Good, good, good. Now, I'm 54. I'm single. I've been married once. I've been divorced for many, many years. My ex-husband and I are actually really good friends. Who would be the best person for me? Because I am interested in a committed monogamous relationship. I don't know if it has to be marriage, but definitely committed and monogamous. So who would take me on as a client?
I'd probably take you on as a client.
I,
The
I
women I
mean,
work with, that's what they're looking for too. So,
I'm
yeah.
old now because with age comes the added concern with how do I blend my 54 years on the planet, my business, everything that I've established as Kristen with somebody else who is, of my age or possibly older. How do we make that
Mm-hmm.
work? I don't want to move in. I love my house. I got the things that I like here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that'd definitely be an ease in gradually type of thing. On the plus
mm,
side, there are many people out there who are looking for the same things as you and have the same concerns as you. So it's like, when you're first starting to get to know someone, definitely don't start thinking ahead like, oh, okay, what does that mean next? Are we moving in together? Are we about to get
right,
married? Like, just
right,
take it for what it is, enjoy the moment, enjoy the process. And at that point, those types of conversations will happen as time's progressing. So you don't have to like freak yourself out about it
got
early
it,
on.
got it,
My
got it.
oldest client to get in a monogamous relationship after working with me was 44. And then one of my clients who got married, I think my oldest client to get married was 36 after working with me. So I haven't got a 54-year-old married yet, but
You never know.
see.
You never know. There's hope for me yet. So we are at like the 1 hour and a little over mark. I try to keep it tight to the hour because my episodes are rerun on an internet radio station, Block 105 Radio, and they only give me an hour slot. And I hate it when I can't get the whole episode in because I went over time. In saying that, I am going to thank each of you for joining me. I'm going to ask our other two callers on the line if they have any thoughts, comments, or words they'd like to say, James or Omni Keys, and open the floor up to them briefly, and then we will wrap up. Either one of you?
No, I'm okay, but thank you everyone for all of your input. That was wonderful. Thank you. This is Kiwana, Omni Keys.
Thank you. And
All
James,
right. And
the only guy in the room.
The only fly on the wall. Yes, this is James. Black Cherokee. I want to say thank you to the panel. A lot of good information. I find that I was relating to quite a few here. So quite briefly, I will say that the dating scene for me is pretty much the way I approach life. If I'm going to find somebody I like, then I have to do the things I like. And maybe I'll meet somebody that likes the same things when I'm out there doing it. And that's how things start. Expectations and acceptance, I think, which is one thing, very few people said, are key. One, I have to accept myself that this is what I want and what I don't want. And you're okay having your opinion about things, and it doesn't impact me unless I let it. So my expectations in a relationship at the beginning are, hey, we're just trying to fill this out. So there's no guarantee you're going to like me tomorrow, let alone tonight. So how about we just take it easy, see how it goes, and let tomorrow happen tomorrow. And I will say one final thing.
I said very nice.
Thank you. And I will say the one last thing, which I know very few men do. I've had a few relationships in my life. I've been married twice, by the way. And I will say between my first marriage and my second, I thought I knew what I wanted my first. And I say it's a little bit different, but it took me 18 years before I made that step again. And the reason why was that I sat down after I cried for like 4 years, trying to figure out what happened. I sat down and I started to imagine what type of person I wanted in my life. And that journey took me a long time. 13 adjectives and descriptives down to your fingernails, to what size shoe she wears, to whether or not she has locks, you know what I mean? All of that. And in doing that, I started to realize what I wanted. And it wasn't too much different than before. So if you can do that and accept yourself and you're on your square, then it doesn't matter whether somebody likes you or not. Right. You hope as you go through life that the person ends up liking you for who you are. And then if you're walking the same path together, you'll find out you've been holding hands before you even knew that the topic of relationships come up. That's how I approach it.
Well, thank you for that, James. I appreciate you. I appreciate your input. I appreciate your presence in the room. I appreciate you. I hope you were taking notes. I appreciate each and every one of you. Lilli, Kiwana, Dr. Kaci, Shamaree, I appreciate each and every one of you for spending this hour with me. It felt like it was only 10 minutes, and I wish I had more time. I am doing a part 2 next Tuesday, same time, 8 p.m., but we're going to be talking about living and loving after narcissistic or toxic relationships. And I've got some guests on who are experts in that field, and then a few people who are on the other side of that kind of relationship. So that should be interesting. Next week is living and loving after a narcissistic relationship. And this was a live candid convo on dating, relationships, and finding love in 2022. I want to thank my special guest co-host, Dr. Kaci. I'm going to send you the best headsets ever. You're never going to have problems with your headset again. Lilli, Bewley, Ibbie, Aromolaran. Thank you all for joining the show. One of the drawbacks to Podbean is that the chat is not preserved. Unfortunately, once I exit out of this room, it's gone. So everybody's contact information, guys, will be in the show notes. It'll also be on the website, www.thekandidshot.com. It'll have all the guest information where you can reach them. Thank you all so very much for joining me this evening. And as I say in closing every episode, I want you all to keep it safe, keep it healthy, and keep it candid.